Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Suzi Barrett, and my guest today is none other than Rachel Bloom. You, of course, know her as the co-creator and star of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and she currently stars in her own Netflix special, Death Let Me Do My Special. This conversation covers lots of different bases. It was cool to talk to someone who has the success that Rachel does and tie her process back to her sketch and improv roots. She has a lot of insights about specifically songwriting and surprising the audience. And she talks really candidly about dealing with the same inner voices that we all battle, which hopefully you'll find really inspiring. This, of course, is the first half of our conversation. Part 2 is for subscribers only, and you can quickly and easily become a subscriber over at yesalso.supercast.com. Make sure you also head over to Instagram at YesAlsoPod to check out pics of Rachel throughout her comedy journey. And if you want to support the show but you don't have any dollars, that's okay. You can subscribe to us on YouTube for free, and that'll help us out a lot. Okay, without further ado, let's go to Rachel Bloom. Is it working? Are we here? Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, I saw your special and it's so fucking fantastic.
Oh, that means so much to me. Thank you.
My goodness. For those who haven't seen it yet, don't walk to your Netflix browser and watch, is it Death Please Let Me Do My Special or Death Let Me Do My Special?
Death Let Me Do My Special. Although Please might have worked.
Please might have worked. Yeah. I want to start, since this is an improv podcast, right away I want to know how your life in improv and how that whole part of you informs your written work. Do you notice it showing up in things like the process of creating that special or creating Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I started improv around the time I started sketch comedy, and I'm very much like UCB New York trained, which is like game, right?
Yeah.
So I fell in love. I mean, I started doing sketch comedy. I did short form in high school, but I started doing sketch before long form. So I already knew about game by the time I started long form. It absolutely informs so many things. I think that, and this is going to sound very experimental theatery, but I think that what improv is great with is like impulse work. And the idea of don't think was so hard for me to grasp, and still sometimes is, right? Because if you're building a scene, you're focusing on game, how are you not going to think?
Right.
But even though, and I've gone in and out of doing improv practically for the past 15 years, I'm in kind of an improv resurgence right now, and wonderful way, because during Crazy Ex-Girlfriend I didn't have time to do shows, and I was never on a Herald team,
which is insane, but important for our listeners to hear. It's not the only thing. Yeah.
But I also wasn't doing it enough. Like the one year I was I was always more sketch than improv, and the one year I was like, I got a call back for a Herald team was like the one year that I was making it a priority to do a lot of improv. Like I was doing a lot of UCB Advanced. I did Miles Stroth's separate class. So I think it's always been something that I go in and out of. So I'm never in it enough to be like an expert. Although now that I'm in it right now and the muscles come back, it totally informs a bunch of things. Like I think that knowing about game is so the way that I write. If anything, growing as a writer is how do I step away from game sometimes to surprise the audience.
Interesting.
Because that's something that definitely, especially in comedy songwriting, which already has all these patterns, you have verses, choruses, tags, you kind of know it's coming. And then you're dealing with rhymes. If you can see a rhyme coming, how do you turn that rhyme into a laugh? And it's why for a lot of times I was not averse to rhyming, but I would sometimes avoid rhymes because I'd be like, well, sometimes if you see a rhyme coming, you're not going to actually cause people to laugh because they're going to know what the joke is.
Right. And you don't want to fall on the same trick every time, which is like a setup to a rhyme that doesn't become a rhyme, which is its own plot twist and a peekaboo surprise. But you can't do that every time. You get that once in a while. Yeah.
And I'll also say taking musical improv, Eliza Skinner's musical improv class, those basic tenets of are you doing a tagline song or a verse, chorus, still informs how I write songs because those are the two.
What's a tagline song?
So there are two in musical improv, and this is kind of still the way I write songs. There are two kind of basic song forms to communicate with your fellow improvisers. The first is like a tagline, where instead of a chorus, you have your chorus is almost a line and it's just verses. So Hey Jude is a tagline song. Hey Jude, da 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 da, ba 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 bum, and then it goes Hey Jude, ba da da da. Right?
Gotcha.
As opposed to I Want to Hold Your Hand. Right?
Yep.
Which is I tell you something. Oh wait. Yeah, because then it goes into I want to hold your hand, which is the chorus.
Right. We keep coming back to a full chorus and then we go to a verse and we go to a full chorus versus we just start our new thing every time with Hey Jude, and that's the tagline version. Yeah,
or it can be at the end of the verse. And I don't know if that was, I've never asked Eliza if that was something she codified, if that was something she got doing elsewhere. I mean, it's basic songwriting structure also. I think I had learned it in another songwriting class, but I'd already learned it in musical improv. So it really helped get that into my bones. But I think that like I write a lot out loud. And so especially in the gestating phase, even if I'm writing alone, I have to speak things out loud. But especially if I'm gestating with someone else, it's all improv because you're pitching, right? And you're pitching jokes and you're pitching character and you're almost trying out different points of view. And with Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Aline and I really found our tone because we hadn't worked together before. So we really found our tone. And this is more unusual than not, kind of almost in script of she'd be at the keyboard and I'd be like almost pontificating and we'd improvise together. And that working that out becomes tone. And you interviewed my lovely husband. He and I are working on a show together right now. And our tone was very much formed in working out our pitch, which was almost like he and I doing these, what ended up being mini improv scenes together of what is the dynamic between these two characters that we're creating. So it's very, even when I'm not doing improv and my improv muscle isn't lubed up, the idea of being in the moment, going off of impulse is very present in everything I do.
Yeah. That process of especially when you're talking about sitting down with a writing partner you've never worked with before and trying to define the tone of a show that's never been made before. It's amazing that you landed on what you landed on. That speaks to kind of the miracle of improv as a creative process, that it because there's no space for like left brain kind of like discussion and disagreement. It's like you just have to dive in and follow the speed of your own instinct. And both of you, it can't help but meet in the middle somewhere, right? It has to land on something. When you're doing those picture like she's at the keyboard and you're pontificating around the room and you guys land on doing dialogue. Would you guys break out of that dialogue to be like, ooh, I liked that. What if it became this or was it just,
it goes in between.
Yeah.
It would go in between all the time. I'm trying to remember. Improv is so like, it's hard to distinguish improv from just like blue skying thoughts, but like something that comes to mind in like the pilot. I mean, this is, over 10 years ago, where we're talking, my character is obsessed with this guy, Josh. She moves to West Covina to be with him and
thinking that it's going to be like LA or Hollywood and it's West Covina. Yeah.
And it's not. And she's with his best friend, Greg, and she's trying to get information out of him. And Aline, almost on a whim, was like, what if she just blew him? and I was like, whoa. But then we started talking about it and I was like, okay. Well, why would I blow him? And I was like, well, I'd be like, hey, baby, so where is Josh? And like, I remember we started playing with that scene and what we realized, what we were doing then, it was kind of realizing the game was, this is a hand job, later blowjob interrogation scene where she's using her, feminine wiles to get information out of him. and it's free. I don't know. I don't know if that's an example of improv as much as it's just freedom of thought. And it's why improv is like, you have to trick yourself, at least I do, into feeling relaxed on stage so that you can let your creative brain come out and your lizard brain isn't taking over in fear. Like especially when I first started out, first jobs I had, I was terrified. And I definitely wasn't, even if I'd been in an improv class and felt very funny and free, if you put me in another environment where I felt pressure, that freedom suddenly wasn't there. And that's also that's like the key to also, like, I mean, you know, you book all the time. So you know the key to well, no one's booking right now because LA,
because the books have been burned.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, like, the hard thing about auditioning is you have to trick yourself into making it not a big deal.
Yeah.
Even though if you get this could be thousands of dollars. This could be the matter between health insurance and not. And I find improv in so many things that same way of you have to trick your brain into being like, this is just a normal day.
Yeah. And don't you think that a good, or for me anyway, I don't mean to be like, don't you think, but a constant lesson of improv is that you can't be precious, because like you can't even remember the scenes that you did in a show a week ago, and like new scenes come all the time. So like the abundance of scenes that you do and the abundance of ideas that kind of never go anywhere or whatever, it's like sand running through your fingers. It cannot be held on to. And therefore you are forced into that perspective of like, yeah, it's not written in stone. It's not precious. It's not important. We're just going to do this.
Yes.
Yeah. Has that kind
I agree.
Yeah.
And the scene you might initiate with, something I still work on is in my improv I'm doing right now, I'll come in with a very written premise. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it'll pan out with the premise I had in mind of my initiating line. And other times it'll go and I have to let that go.
Yeah. Do you find that hard?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm same. I tend
because you're like, oh, this is a great sketch idea.
Yeah.
And then it goes right. And you have to learn to pivot, which is of course a life lesson. I mean, I feel like every religion has this lesson, right? That every philosophy is
let
like,
go and let God.
Yes.
Yeah. Surrendering control, accepting what's there, living in the moment. Yeah. All of those adages that, boy, just are way easier said than done. Cause when you're like in the moment, it's like, oh, but I saw this, I want to go towards that. Or, and especially with your sketch background, you had sketch training first before improv tracing.
Yes. So very, I would say game heavy, but also like thinky game heavy. Like there was sketch improvising in it, but like for the most part, I was writing alone. So there very much was a cerebral. And I would say like when I first started writing sketches, my sketches tended almost toward the like too cerebral, because it accessed a very mathematical part of my brain. And something that songwriting helped me get out of was mixing that cerebral quality with emotion. Mm-hmm. And look, it's something I'm still learning. Like every new project is a new learning curve. But I think improv makes you really good at that lack of preciousness. And then also I think it's the scariest thing. I mean, I think going up and doing unplanned scenes, if you can get not even good at that, but if you can get like comfortable with that, then you can get comfortable with pretty much any kind of public speaking.
Yeah.
You know, like
for
suddenly
sure.
like a teleprompter at an award show is like, all right, well, the words are written down. So that's not as hard as an improv show. I do think
all I have to
hard.
remember is to face that way.
Yes,
great.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. In some ways, because I'm kind of the inverse of you, like I have mostly improv training and background with a little bit of sketch in there. And when I've done sketch, I can find that intimidating because to me, it has a veneer on it that says to the audience, this is the best we could do. And here it is. And so there's like less forgiveness and maybe it's in my head that I'm like, God, is it good enough to be like, this is the best? And we wrote it down and memorized it. Whereas improv, I feel like comes with a permission. Maybe I'm self-applying it, but a permission to be messy, be outside the lines, be whatever, not perfect. I don't know. Do you feel that differentiation at all?
Oh, yeah. I think it's why it's so much harder to correctly describe an improv show you saw is because in order to explain why a line was funny, you have to give the context of the scene that came before. And you have to okay, well, you have to understand that this person accidentally said shananas instead of bananas. And so that went off on a whole thing where shananas was a new fruit. And you need so much more context in the kind of stream of consciousness than if you were describing a sketch.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, I mean, not to sound like I'm 22 years old, but like something I found mind blowing about the show, I think you should leave, was there's game there, but also it retains a lot of the kind of playfulness and side whimsy and like going off on tangents that you have in improv that I think like wasn't part of the math that I learned doing sketch. So it made me appreciate improv as a writing tool even more after seeing that show.
Yeah. That is my favorite sketch show. And something that I love also that he does in that is heightening unexpected things or heightening the thing that is going to be heightened from the beginning, but doing it so hard or so in a way that I'm not expecting. I'm constantly being surprised by that show. And even just the log lines of the sketches, I'm like, wow, God, that's fucking so weird and so specific that it's brilliant. It's like, yeah, why would you make like the shirt tuggers handle and stuff, just like stuff that is so, it's even the log line is heightened. And then from there, he leaps even more forward.
Yeah, but it doesn't come across as, because sometimes when you get like really absurdist comedy, and I guess I feel this about absurdism in general, where I'm like, yeah, okay, it could be anything. I'm like, that's not what I think you should leave as at all. But there's a thing with, and this is where you start to get into more absurdist theater, where it's like, and this is my theater background, where it's like, yeah, if you're doing absurdist theater and someone comes in and smashes a jar of peanut butter on the stage and goes, boogie, boogie, booga, 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 sure. Like, right. Yeah, I'm like, that's theater. And also you could have made 1,000 other choices. I took some very experimental theater classes in school. And there was a part of me that was like, yeah, I guess anything can be a thing.
Yes.
If you're just going to throw nouns out there. And obviously that's very insulting to absurdism. But like, it's something I sometimes feel about like when something is so absurd that I'm like, my brain is not latching on to things. Like you keep switching the things and it feels like this is a child could do this. And having an almost 5-year-old now, she does do stuff that's really absurd. But there is something beautiful about that. So I don't mean to say my child's not funny because she told a joke that was like, what did the cloud say to the bird after the bird pooped on it?
What?
Don't worry, it's just poop. So
yeah.
That's also what a cloud would say.
Yeah. She's a good improviser. She's playing the truth of the moment and it's accidentally funny because it's not what we expected. And the expectation of it being a joke sets it up to have us think that it's going to be like a pun or something, but presenting it as just it's a real answer makes it hilarious.
Yes.
That kid's got it. If you, after this, let me slip you my card. If she has representation, I will counter their offer. I only take 5%. So,
that's very good. Considering that I think child stars, this is like I think baby modeling, you get like $50 or something. So we took her to the kids, Deb, Tarika, and Alex Fernie's kid improv show.
Oh God, I've done that show. It's so wild.
So fun.
Did she get on stage?
No, I mean, she's so little.
Yeah.
She kind of just like sat with us and was intimidated, I think, when she started to see kids getting up there, because she's not even 5.
Yeah.
But that show's fun because they become camp counselors in the second part of that show. I mean, they invite anywhere from 3 to 8 kids on stage with them.
And some of them are little. Like we've played with like 4-year-olds and stuff, that like the ones that are really hammy. Like most of them are older. Yeah. 1st grade to 5th grade. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah,
I know that. Yeah. And I think that's the impulse, is to be hammy, right? And I think that that's the impulse we all have, because you say, don't think and react in the moment. But like at the end of the day, like we're trying to make the audience laugh.
Yeah.
So I loved the few times I've done dramatic improv where it really takes away the pressure to be funny. Oh my God, where it's like, oh, I'm just going to really play the reality of a scene. And inevitably it ends up being funny. Yeah. But I love when that pressure's even off.
Yeah. Well, and especially as someone with a deep theater background and theater school in your DNA, of course, like you would be able to dive into dramatic improv in a way that's like more satisfying for you and an audience on a level that has nothing to do with the comedy, but then it becomes funny by accident anyway. It's like there's like 2 different layers to it.
Yeah, I really wish there were more conversation, and maybe there is, and I'm just out of it because I'm also speaking to experiences I had 15 years ago. I wish there was a little more conversation between like comedic improv places like UCB or Second City and experimental theater places, because there's so much overlap, and theater places in general. There's so much overlap with being in the moment, listening. What do you do when you go off of impulse? Like I think of this, there's this thing that I learned called contact improv, which is all body. I don't know if you've ever done it.
I've heard of it. This was floating around. Yeah, it's like someone touches your shoulder and that sends you into like a new position. It's almost like acrobatic stuff.
Yeah, it's basically you're sending energy in between 2, and it's not woo. You're literally like, okay, put all your energy in your shoulder, okay, and then it rolls onto your back. And like I remember doing a scene with my friend in college, or doing a contact improv exercise where like we did a shoulder thing and then I rolled onto his back, and then it ended with him walking like a dog as I was lying on his back, right? And the thing the teacher said is, and he and I were on the sketch group together, they were like, when you and Kale do contact improv, it always turns into a narrative. Because, and I loved that. Yeah. I wish that Vella Lavelle, who was in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, also went to NYU. We weren't in the same year, but a couple times we did contact improv, and like, God, I wish I could start so many scenes on a film set by doing some sort of, silly contact improv or like body work just to loosen everybody up.
Yeah. Bring them into a vulnerable, open place, a silly place, a deep listening to each other, a deep trust. Like if you're going to roll over and lay on someone's back while they walk like a dog, like that takes a lot of trust and a lot of like, it disarms any sort of ego that you can have defending against that place,
But you have to trust.
You have to trust, yeah.
And I remember when we were auditioning for the role of Daryl, at one point, I was talking to the head of the CW, and he was like, "Who makes you feel safe?" And the guy who ended up getting the role, Pete Gardner, is an improv legend. I mean, yes. He coached, he was on this improv team called Jazz Freddy, which is like a legendary Chicago team.
Yeah, one of the ultimate IO teams of all time. Yeah.
And he coached Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, and I've been coaching with Craig Kukowski on something, and Pete coached him. And so there is a feeling when I was doing scenes with Pete of, he's got me. I could try anything. He's always gonna get me. There's nothing I can do that's gonna throw him.
Was there ever improv on the set in that show? Did you yeah?
Yeah, we would always do a loose take. It was really fun because there were some people who had improv backgrounds, like, me and Pete and Renee Goubet, who played Father Bra, who was also on the staff, who's now a multiple award winner for writing on the Bear.
Yeah, unbelievably successful, yeah.
And he's so unbelievably talented. And I mean, the thing that is wild about Renee is that I just don't understand why he's not a movie star, because he could do he has so many talents. So we would do improvised takes for the people who are improvisers, but also like we would just do a riffy take for even if you weren't an improviser. And it was fun because I could tell it got actors it gets you to loosen up. And even if you're not trying to think of like a joke to pitch, even if you're living in the moment, stuff is going to come out. And even if someone had never done improv before and we did a loose whatever take, funny stuff would always come out.
And in my experience with those style of takes, even if you don't get a golden punchline out of it, the acting feels more alive because everyone's in that place of like they don't know what's going to happen. So there's a little more sizzle, I feel like, between like in the room. There's like a sense of like, it's the ball is in play more than we're just, reflexively grabbing the ball that we know is going to come at the exact time at the exact place,
Yeah, because the goal of acting is to make it seem like the first time your character's saying this. And if you do improvised takes, or even a take where you just loosen up what the dialogue is a little bit, even if it was just like, let's just do a shaggy take. Once we've gotten the scene as is, let's just do a take where we like play around with the words. You're going to get these beautiful, very, very genuine moments that you wouldn't be able to get if you didn't do just like one fun riffy take.
Yeah.
And that was in dramatic scenes too. I mean, we would do dramatic improv. I always just liked having it. We'd call it like a fun run where it's like, all right, we got the scene. We probably wouldn't do it on the wide. We would do it on either a 2-shot or we would do it on coverage. But I always liked doing that because I think very good actors, even if they're not like comedic improvisers, they're good improvisers because they're listening. And my writing partner on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Aline Brosh McKenna, she wrote the movie The Devil Wears Prada. And something she told me, she said, like, Meryl Streep is a great improviser.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Connected listening, emotional reacting from a truthful place. Like she has all the ingredients. And also like, man, I was just commenting on that because of her sketch in the SNL 50th. You could tell there were moments where she like accidentally went off book and she just like charged forth with it. I was like, man,
I haven't watched it yet. I should watch it.
She's a great improviser.
Vacation. Great.
Yeah. And she shows it in that.
She also doesn't take herself. Just as a fan of Meryl Streep, everything I see her do, she's playing. She just always looks like she's having the most fun. I mean, I guess I'm thinking about Mamma Mia in particular, but like she always feels like she's having, even in the movie, like it's complicated. I don't know. She's always just like playing.
I just saw It's Complicated for the first time a few months ago. Great movie.
It's really good.
It's really good. I'm going to sprinkle in some questions from our subscribers who have questions directly for you. This one's from Katrina. Are there any musicals that particularly inspire your musical improv or your songwriting?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Right?
Look, any good comedic musical is going to be like the gold standard of, things like Avenue Q, Book of Mormon, You're in Town. When I think of like, these are the musicals that really, really make me laugh out loud. Mm-hmm. The Producers. I mean, the first time I saw the movie, The Producers, I saw Springtime for Hitler, that musical number when I was like probably 9 or 10. And it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
But also I think like I just saw a Sondheim review last night, so it's in my head, but Sondheim has a way of, there's a stream of consciousness to it, but it's just so incredibly well done and specific. It's poetry.
Mhm.
And so I think what I'm always trying to do is combine my kind of mathematical brain that very, and I wouldn't consider myself a mathy person, but there was something that happened when I learned sketch comedy that I found an order to my thoughts. And this is a little bit of undiagnosed ADHD at the time, that I found an order to my thoughts that I was like, oh, thank God I have some sort of structure in which to play. But I tend to sometimes get too dogmatic about structure. And so looking at Sondheim, where he's just really, being so experimental and I don't know, breaking rules, but also making rules. I think that stuff, it definitely informs my writing.
Totally. I can see that. And that there were a few moments in watching your special where there were like moments like that where I was like, oh, like that, like unexpected structural things, or like tacking a line on at the end of a chorus that like reinforces a joke. I don't want to like spoil anything for people who haven't seen it, but there's, I can see the Sondheim influence in there.
Oh, that's a huge compliment. I will take that. Yeah, I think it's always the pressure of be emotionally honest, and then when are you making an audience laugh? And I think that like we all have these inner voices, right? And I have this inner voice all the time that's like, but is there a joke here? Is there a joke here? And then there's the other inner voice that's like, what if there isn't? What if you let it breathe for a second and you just trust it? And I'm still very much on this like journey and path. Like I don't ever want to stop learning, even though in the moment, sometimes if I'm stuck on a song or I'm stuck on a joke, I'm like, oh, I should understand this by now. In the long run, it's good to always be learning.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And if we ever get to a place where we feel like we're not learning, then life has a way of smacking you in the face with it. And it's like, nope, here's another lesson, or here's something that you can be humbled by. I've always wanted to know this about your songwriting. Like you're so good at genre jumping. Like I love that your songs not only emotionally commit to like an emotional point of view, and also have like a game of their scene that they're paying off in a sort of sketch writey way, but they also lean hard into genres that land across the board. And I want to know, like in your process, what comes first? Are you like, okay, we're gonna have this be, you know, a 1940s lounge singer song? Or are you like game first? Are you serving the script first, the emotional thing, or is it all over the place for each one?
I think it depends. Something I want to add is that in the last question too is something that really, really I think improv directly informs with songwriting is the bridge, because the bridge has always been an excuse for me to go to another place.
That's such a good point.
Where it's like the classic, and I want to say I even learned this in Eliza's class, where if you have a want song, the bridge is, well, what will happen if I don't get what I want? Mm-hmm. And if you listen to bridges, they can go so many different directions. And so I think that I always thought of the bridge as like, all right, here's a way to really surprise the audience. And the bridge could be a lot of things as long as it's under this general umbrella of game. Dovetailing into genre, yeah. I mean, I think it depends on the song. Like, so the last song in my show, so I work from a very pastiche place. And I like to say I'm a lyricist with a capital L, composer with a small c. In that I'm definitely, I play piano, okay. And I'm a singer, but like, I'm very much, if I'm writing music, I'm coming at it from an almost like genre parody place, right? It's almost like the genre is the straight man, if that makes any sense. So inherent in a lot of the songs is the thing that you're making fun of is the genre of the song itself. So genre often goes hand in hand with the premise. But I will say, I mean, I'll just spoil, it's gonna not make any sense if you haven't seen my special, but the last song, and my special's about death, and I talk about my friend dying, but I also talk about early in the show my fear of my dog dying. And the last song on the show is called the revelation is I am my daughter's dog. And it's the revelation that the thing that helped me be okay with death was this idea that, like, if all goes right with the world, I will die before my daughter in the same way we expect our dogs to die before us. So that was what I knew I wanted the song to be. I don't know if it's comedic. It is a comedic idea. I had some lyrics. I had no idea what the genre was. And I was like, this could be a lot of things. And I didn't want to make it a pastiche of anything, because I kind of wanted the idea to stand on its own and be like, well, what happens if it's just I wanted to be an inspirational song, right?
Yeah.
And so I collaborated with Shayna Taub on it, and Shayna wrote the musical Suffs. She now has numerous Tonys and Grammys. And that was a real collaboration where I said, look, I have these lyrics, I have this idea. It's hopeful. What do you think that could be? Because I was open to many things, and that's how we came in with this kind of I would say like singer-songwriter pop rock, but a little bit of soul in it. And there's a moment in the song where I would have made it a bridge. I originally wrote it as a monologue, and I was like, can we turn this into a bridge? And Shayna was like, well, what if it's an Aretha-like monologue in the middle of the song, which is a choice that I wouldn't have made if we were doing a different, I don't know, if I was doing like an exact satire of a genre. It's a choice
if you
I
were
wouldn't
beholden to if you shackled by like the tropes of a specific genre and moving through the kind of dictated form of that. This was so much more open season and allowed room for this like new wild card. Spoken thing. Yeah.
So that's how I'm still growing, I think, is we did so many songs. We did 157 original songs on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, almost all of which were almost all of which were some sort of satire. And they were satire because the whole point, the reason the show was a musical is because this is a character who is trying to figure out who she is. And she's almost trying on musical genres. And her energy infects the people around her so that they're also trying on personas and musical genres. And so I think the next stage for me in my songwriting is, especially working with collaborators, of, all right, well, what if it's not, what happens if the genre isn't the straight man per se? What does that feel like? What does that feel like with my songwriting, with my lyric writing?
Well, and that's interesting because there's another song on your special that's like a spooky song genre, like a Halloween song, which is also so fun. I was like, oh, I haven't seen this exact like parody before. It's such a specific genre. It's earned by what you talk about topically in that part of the show. But it's almost like, rather than being just the straight man there, that song, because the game of the song ends up being like, this is not scary, nothing's haunting you, that's just, the noise of a possum in the attic. Like at every turn you think it's going to be scary, and then it's not, it's explained away. So the genre ends up being a gateway for the comedy, because it sets up an expectation that then it becomes a game of irony. Like
yes,
a scary song about all the things that aren't actually haunting you and being scary.
So that's also a really good point, that the game of the song is also sometimes what the lyrics are. I mean, a lot of times in the songs that I write, especially when I started doing stuff that was very pop focused, the game is what you expect from this genre and what the lyrics are actually saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that song is very much, I would say, a mix of, I mean, Grim Grinning Ghosts. It's very Nightmare Before Christmas. And then it's very like Halloween novelty song, like, Monster Mash or even Spooky Scary Skeletons, which is a new classic.
I don't know Spooky Scary Skeletons.
Check it out. It's pretty fun.
Okay. I'll put it on the top of my my iPod Nano.
Yeah, there you go.
For part 2 of this episode, go to yesalso.supercast.com. If you like this podcast, you can support us and get a ton of bonus content over at yesalso.supercast.com. If you have a question about improv that you'd like us to answer on one of our future Q&A episodes, send it on over to yesalsopod@gmail. Remember to follow us on Instagram at yesalsopod and keep sharing us with your improv communities. We love the love. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A huge shout out to Ryan Rosenberg, who produced this thing with his generous help and his unlimited knowledge about all things podcast. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Suzi. That's not how podcasts work. They will see. They won't even see us. They will listen to us. So it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.